My name is Ruth Canales, and I'm 30 years old. If you had asked me a few months ago what my life looked like, I would have told you it felt stable, maybe not perfect, but solid in all the ways that mattered. I had a boyfriend I loved, a job I worked hard for, and a future I thought I could see clearly. I trusted him. I trusted my family. And I trusted that the people I cared about were exactly who they appeared to be. Looking back, it's almost embarrassing how naive I was. But this isn't the beginning of a tragedy. This is the beginning of the night everything false finally shattered. It all started on the evening of my boyfriend's birthday. Daniel Rivers, who had just turned 31, wasn't some grand romantic or extravagant guy, but he had this quiet way of making me feel like my life was steady, like I was doing something right. So when his birthday came around, I decided to give him something unforgettable. Something that said, "I'm here for you. I believe in us." I spent weeks planning a surprise celebration at his favorite Italian restaurant. Daniel loved the place for reasons I still don't understand. It wasn't fancy, just warm lighting, too much oregano in everything, and a piano player who always seemed one wrong note from disaster. But he loved it, so I booked an entire section for his family and closest friends. I ordered a custom cake shaped like a vinyl record with tiny frosting details representing his favorite albums. I even saved up for months to buy him a watch he'd been eyeing every time we walked past the same boutique downtown. It wasn't cheap, and I had to pick up extra shifts at work, but I wanted to see the look on his face when he opened it. I wanted to feel that moment of knowing I'd done something meaningful for someone I loved. Everything was going perfectly at first. Daniel laughed more than I had seen in weeks. His mother hugged me when she arrived, calling me the thoughtful one. His friends bragged about how lucky he was, how I spoiled him. I smiled through it all, feeling proud of him, of us, of the night I put together. But somewhere between the appetizers and the cake, I realized Daniel was gone. At first, I brushed it off. He could have stepped outside to take a call or maybe gone to the bathroom. People at the table didn't notice either. Everyone was too busy chatting, clinking glasses, making toasts. 5 minutes passed, then 10, then 15. That's when the first needle of unease pricked my spine. Daniel wasn't the type to vanish without saying anything, especially not at his own party. I excused myself from the table, telling his mom I'd go check on him. I walked through the main dining area, scanning faces, corners, the bar, even the hostess stand. Nothing. I wasn't panicking, not yet, just unsettled. There's a hallway near the back of the restaurant, just before the kitchen, where most people don't go. It's where they keep the employee lockers and a coat closet for extra storage. I'd seen Daniel wander there once or twice when he needed a quiet moment, so I followed that hallway. As I walked, I heard something, two voices, low, quiet, intimate, a woman's laugh. Something inside me froze. It wasn't a normal laugh. It was breathless hush, the kind of laugh people make when they're too close to each other. I took another step, and the voices sharpened. A soft gasp, a whispered wait followed by a muffled kiss. And that's when I recognized the woman's voice. Melissa, my cousin. Melissa Parker's a woman I had grown up with. A woman who had once dated Daniel years before he and I ever happened. She was the last person I would have imagined sneaking around with him. We hadn't been close for a while, but that didn't matter. She was still family. And Daniel had always told me their old relationship was nothing, just history. History doesn't moan behind a half-closed closet door. My throat felt tight, but some stubborn, stupid instinct pushed me forward. The closet door wasn't fully shut. A sliver of dim yellow light spilled through the crack, and I saw the faint glow of a phone screen inside, like someone had dropped it on the floor while fumbling. Everything in me screamed to turn around, to walk away, to not see what I knew I was about to see. But I pushed the door open anyway. The world tilted. Melissa was pressed against the wall, her hands tangled in Daniel's shirt collar. Daniel's lips were on her neck. Their bodies were flushed too close, too familiar, too comfortable for this to be some sudden lapse in judgment. When they realized the door had opened, they pulled apart sharply, eyes wide. Daniel's face drained of color. Melissa's mouth fell open, mascara smudged under her eyes. For a second, none of us spoke. The silence was sharp enough to cut. Then Melissa tried to say something, but I lifted a hand. "No," I said quietly, because if I let myself scream, I wasn't sure I'd stop. "Don't talk." Daniel reached towards me like he thought he had the right to touch me. "Ruth, please, this isn't what it—" I laughed, bitter, broken. "Daniel, don't insult my intelligence." He tried again. Melissa stepped forward like she thought she could fix this. My cousin, the girl I once shared birthday cakes with, the one I defended in too many family arguments. I stepped back from both of them. I could barely breathe. Don't come home tonight, I said to Daniel. Don't text me. Don't call. Don't explain. We're done. He opened his mouth, but I walked out before he could say another word. I didn't go back to the table. I didn't make excuses or fake a smile. I grabbed my bag, left the restaurant, and stepped into the cold night air. My phone vibrated once, twice, then nonstop. Calls, messages, apologies, explanations, begging. I didn't read a single one. That night, sitting alone in my car outside a dark convenience store, staring at my trembling hands, I realized something. The people closest to you can betray you so quietly, so efficiently, that you never see the knife until it's already buried. And this was only the beginning. I had no idea what was coming next. The morning after the restaurant disaster felt like waking up underwater, heavy, distorted, every movement slow. I hadn't slept. Not really. I drifted in and out, my mind replaying the closet door over and over again. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's hands on Melissa's waist, heard their breathless whispers, felt that nauseating wave of betrayal breaking over me. By sunrise, my phone had more missed calls and messages than I'd ever seen in my life. Daniel had tried everything from apologies to explanations to attempted justifications. Melissa sent one long message at 4 a.m. that began with, "I didn't mean for this to happen," and ended with, "You misunderstood, it was complicated." No, it wasn't complicated, it was clear. I ignored every message and forced myself out of bed. I had work that day and I wasn't going to let either of them take more from me. I had just finished getting dressed when my phone rang again, this time my mother. I almost didn't answer, but something told me I needed to. "Ruth," she said, her voice heavy, "can you come to the house now? We need to talk." That sentence should have been a red flag, but I was exhausted, emotionally raw, and stupidly hopeful that maybe, just maybe, my own parents would offer support. I drove over in silence, gripping the steering wheel until my hands ached. When I pulled into my parents' driveway, I saw both of their cars parked. Not unusual. But the blinds were drawn, and my father's silhouette sat stiff at the dining table. A bad sign. I stepped inside, and the air felt thick with something: tension, discomfort, maybe rehearsed judgment. My dad didn't even stand. He just looked up at me and said, "Sit down." "No. Are you okay?" "No, we're here for you. Just an order." My mother paced nearby, arms folded tight against her chest. I sat across from them, my heart pounding. Mom cleared her throat. "We need to talk about last night." Finally, I said quietly, "I could really use—" "We talked to Melissa," she cut in. My stomach dropped. My father nodded, face stern, and she told us everything. Everything, I repeated. Did she mention the part where she was kissing my boyfriend at his birthday party? The silence that followed was worse than yelling, worse than excuses, because the expression on their faces didn't show outrage or sympathy, but restraint, like I was the one making a scene. Mom sighed the way she always did when she thought I was being dramatic. "Sweetheart, what happened wasn't ideal." "Not ideal," I repeated. "They were making out in a closet at his own birthday party. During the party I planned. And that's not ideal." "You need to stay calm," my father said. "Calm, of course." "Mom," I said, trying once more, "Daniel cheated on me. With Melissa, my own cousin." "We're not defending their actions," she said carefully. "But feelings are complicated." I stared at her. "Feelings are complicated. That's the excuse." She looked away. My father jumped in. "Ruth, listen. Daniel and Melissa have history. You know that. Maybe those feelings resurfaced." I felt my chest tighten, breath short. "Dad, I don't care if they dated in college. That doesn't justify anything." "No one is saying it does," he countered. "But maybe you shouldn't react impulsively. If they truly care for each other." I laughed. Actually laughed. A sharp, incredulous sound that even surprised me. "I walked in on them," I said quietly. "There is no scenario where that's okay. None. And you two are sitting here talking about feelings like I'm the one who needs to be reasonable." Mom finally stopped pacing. "We're only trying to keep the peace. The family can't fall apart over a mistake." "A mistake. A mistake implies an accident, something unintended. What Melissa and Daniel were doing wasn't an accident. It wasn't a slip. It wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a choice. But my parents didn't want choices. They wanted convenience, harmony, a pretty family portrait, even if that portrait was taped together with lies." I swallowed hard. "So that's it. You're taking their side." "We're not taking sides," Dad insisted. But the truth was in their eyes. "You just think I should get over it," I said. "Pretend nothing happened. Let them be together for the sake of keeping everyone comfortable." Mom looked pained, but she didn't deny it. That was the moment something inside me cracked. It wasn't loud or explosive. It was silent, like a small fracture you don't notice until the whole structure starts crumbling. I stood up. If you want to defend them, I said, voice steady, despite the burn in my throat, then you can do that without me. Ruth Dad warned, don't be immature. I'm not being immature, I said. I'm setting boundaries. Mom stepped closer, reaching for my arm. We're just trying to help. I stepped back. No. You're trying to avoid discomfort, and you're using me as the sacrifice. She flinched like I'd slapped her. Good. She finally felt something. I walked to the door. Neither of them followed. Neither of them said, wait, or we're sorry, or we understand. My father simply sighed. My mother whispered something to herself, and that told me everything I needed to know. Outside on the porch, my phone buzzed. It was my younger sister, Erin. I answered immediately. Are you okay? She asked without introduction, her voice tight. No, I said honestly, but I will be. I heard, she said. I heard what Mom and Dad said. They're being awful. I sank down onto the porch steps, suddenly too tired to keep standing. They're acting like I'm the problem. You're not, Erin said fiercely. You're not crazy. You're not overreacting. What Daniel and Melissa did was disgusting. And Mom and Dad, they're just avoiding conflict like always. I closed my eyes, breathing shakily. Thank you. Ruth, she said softly, I'm on your side, always. That sentence, that small, steady lifeline, hit harder than any betrayal that week. Can I come over later? She asked. Please, I whispered. We hung up and I sat there alone on the porch staring at the street. My parents had chosen comfort over truth, chosen the betrayers over the betrayed, chosen the path of least resistance even if it meant pushing their own daughter to the edge. But Erin chose me, and that meant more than anything. I stood up, lifted my chin, and walked to my car. If my family wanted to side with Melissa and Daniel, then they could live with that choice. Because I was done living for people who refused to see me. For the next 2 days, I kept my phone on silent, not because I wanted peace, but because I knew what waited on the other end of every vibration. More explanations from Daniel, more excuses from Melissa, more underhanded guilt trips from my parents disguised as reason. The only person I actually wanted to talk to was Erin. She came over with takeout, sat with me on the living room floor, and didn't push for details. She just waited until I was ready. But even with her there, my mind kept circling back to the same thing after everything I had done for Daniel. Supporting him, encouraging him, celebrating him, he repaid me with betrayal. And then 3 days after the restaurant, he tried to take something else from me. He wanted to keep the watch. The watch I spent months saving for. The watch I chose with care and excitement. The watch I had imagined him wearing every day as a reminder of our relationship. I found that out through a text from one of his co-workers, a girl named Brianna, who had always been kind to me, always a little too aware of Daniel's flaws. Just a heads up, she wrote. Daniel's saying he's keeping the watch you gave him. Thought you'd want to know. I stared at the message, feeling disbelief twist into something colder. Erin glanced over my shoulder. You've got to be kidding me. It wasn't even about the watch. Not really. It was the principle. Daniel thought he could betray me and walk away with something I sacrificed for. And maybe that was the spark I needed. I got in my car without giving myself time to think it over. Erin didn't ask questions, she just got in the passenger seat. Daniel worked at a gym as an assistant trainer. I dropped by more times than I could count just to bring him lunch or say hi. Walking through those doors now didn't feel nostalgic, it felt necessary. The gym was busy, weights, clanking music, thumping through the speakers, people grunting mid-set. But everything quieted for me, washed out under a wave of determination. Daniel was at the front desk, laughing with one of the trainers. His laughter died the moment he saw me. He stiffened. Ruth, what are you? I want the watch, I said. Right now. A few people glanced over. The trainer he'd been talking to glanced between us, sensing the atmosphere shift. Daniel swallowed hard. I'm using it, and you gave it to me. It was a gift from my boyfriend, I said. You stopped being that the moment you chose Melissa. A whisper rippled through the nearby gym members. Daniel flushed red. Can we talk privately? No, I said. Hand it over. His jaw tightened, that familiar stubbornness sitting on his face like an unwanted shadow. You're overreacting. Erin stepped forward. Just give her the watch, Daniel. His eyes darted from her to me, and for the first time I saw something like fear in them, not of me, but of how this looked. He glanced around. The trainer next to him raised his eyebrows, clearly waiting. Daniel reached into the drawer behind the desk and pulled out the watch case. He hesitated like the piece of metal meant something deeper, like he deserved to hold on to it. He didn't. He placed it on the counter. I took it without a word. Ruth, he said, his voice cracking just slightly. Please? Can we talk? No, I said, turning away. We're long past talking. Erin followed me out, but not before giving Daniel a look sharp enough to cut. Once we were in the car, I opened the case and stared at the watch. It was beautiful, expensive, meticulously chosen. And now it was nothing but a reminder of a man who had taken me for a fool. "I'm selling it," I said. "Today." Aaron nodded, eyes fierce. "Good." And I did. I walked into a jewelry store that afternoon and walked out with cash, not the full price I paid, but enough. Enough to feel like I reclaimed something. But the universe wasn't done handing me things to reclaim. There was the car. A little backstory: last year for our anniversary, I bought Daniel a sporty sedan. It wasn't brand new, but it was sleek enough to make him feel like he was leveling up in life. He'd wanted that car for ages, always showing me photos, always hinting. I bought it because I loved him, because I thought generosity built strong roots. The car was still in my name, payments, insurance, registration. All me. After I kicked him out, I was so overwhelmed that I didn't even think to grab the keys. But I regretted that the moment I saw a photo on social media, Melissa taking a selfie from the passenger seat, Daniel driving, both smirking. He was using my car to drive around the woman he cheated with. The fury that shot through me was almost electric. Then a miracle called coincidence happened. A day after the watch incident, I got a call from Lucas, a friend from high school who worked at a dealership. "Ruth," he said. "Hey, I think your car is here." "My what now?" "Your sedan. Some guy brought it in for maintenance. He seems clueless. Didn't know the model year, didn't know the service history. I checked the system, it's registered to you." Daniel. He was trying to service a car he didn't even legally own. "Don't let him take it," I said immediately. "I'm coming." "Already told the manager," Lucas said. "Keys are locked in the safe." Good, great. Finally, something was going right. When I arrived, Lucas met me outside. "You ready?" he asked. "More than ready." Inside, the service manager handed me the keys after verifying the paperwork. My name was everywhere: title, insurance, service records. Daniel's name was nowhere. Legally, it was mine. Morally, it was mine. Emotionally, it was so mine. Sliding into the driver's seat felt like stepping into justice. I drove it off the lot without hesitation. Daniel called 3 times within an hour. I didn't answer. Then Melissa texted, "Really? You're taking the car? We need it. Stop being petty." I deleted the message. But the best message came from Erin that night. "Daniel is losing it," she said over the phone, laughing. "He's telling everyone you stole the car." "Let him," I said. "It's legally mine." Erin snorted. "Mom is upset, though. Says you should have told them first." I stiffened. "Why?" "So they could lecture me again or tell me to give the car back." "You're right," she sighed. "Don't call her. It'll only make things worse." It did. Later that night, my mother left a voicemail. "Ruth, honey, I understand you're hurting, but taking the car wasn't right. They're struggling. Please try to be reasonable." I didn't call her back. Let her sit with that silence. Daniel took my love, my trust, my dignity. He didn't get to take my things too. The morning the universe finally decided to intervene began like any other. I was making coffee, still half asleep, when my phone buzzed. I ignored it. These days, every unexpected message felt like a potential emotional landmine. But the second buzz came immediately after the first, then a third. Only one person in my life texted with that kind of urgency without being annoying. Erin. I swiped open my phone, expecting more updates about our mother's most recent guilt trip attempt. Instead, I saw, "You are not going to believe this. Call me now." My heart thudded. I dialed without hesitation. She answered instantly, breathless. "Ruth, oh my God, sit down." "I'm standing in front of my stove," I said. "Is this about Mom? Did she—" "No," she cut in. "It's about Daniel." My stomach tightened. What did he do now? "He got arrested." The words hit me so suddenly, I nearly dropped my phone. "What?" Erin sucked in a breath like she was trying not to burst out laughing. "Daniel got arrested." I sat down slowly, coffee forgotten. "For what?" "Shoplifting," she said, already giggling. "From an electronics store." I closed my eyes. He didn't. Oh, he did. Tried to steal 2 smartphones? Security caught everything on camera. They stopped him at the door. Employees held him until the cops came. I didn't laugh. Not immediately. I sat in stunned silence for a moment, letting it settle. Then the laughter bubbled up, unexpected, uncontrollable. The kind of cathartic, disbelieving laugh that finally breaks after weeks of pressure. Erin joined in. "I swear," she said, nearly wheezing, "he thought he'd just slip them in his bag and walk out like no one would notice. Who even shoplifts display phones? They're literally attached to alarms." The absurdity of it all made my ribs ache. This is the same man who said I was being unreasonable for taking back my own car. "I know," Erin said. "It's poetic." But the story didn't end there. Once we both calmed down, she said, "Guess who bailed him out?" I groaned. "Please don't say." "Mom and Dad." I rubbed my forehead. "Of course. Naturally." My parents, who refused to acknowledge Daniel's betrayal, had practically sprinted to the station to rescue him. Erin sighed. "Mom told me they couldn't leave someone they care about in a cell." Meanwhile, their own daughter is dealing with heartbreak alone. It's pathetic, I said quietly. It is, she agreed. And it's embarrassing for them. People at the station saw them hugging him like he was some lost puppy. I let out a long, slow breath. The humiliation wasn't mine. For once, it belonged to them. And Melissa, I asked. Not there, Aaron said. But rumor is she's furious because apparently Daniel was planning to sell the phones for cash. They're broke. The irony didn't escape me. They wanted the car. They wanted the watch. They wanted support. They wanted sympathy. They didn't want accountability. Is anyone in the family defending him, I asked. Not really, she said. This time everyone's laughing. Even Aunt Vivian called to say Daniel always had slippery fingers. Whatever that means. I snorted. But Melissa, Aaron continued, she's telling people he was framed. Framed. In an electronics store covered in cameras, I said. What does she think this is a conspiracy thriller? Exactly, Aaron said. She's desperately trying to make this sound like some tragic misunderstanding. I leaned back against the counter, shaking my head. Let her. The truth doesn't need defending. But the humiliation got worse for them. Later that afternoon, I stopped by a grocery store. Normally, I'd keep my head down, avoid small talk. But today, I overheard two women near the produce section whispering. I can't believe Melissa's boyfriend got arrested, one said. I heard he tried to steal phones, the other replied. And her parents bailed him out. They shook their heads with pity. Not for Daniel, for Melissa. I kept walking, but there was a tiny, vindicating spark inside me. Finally, the consequences were landing where they belonged. That evening, Erin called again. You're going to love this, she said. What now? Melissa's been calling everyone asking for money, she said. Says Daniel has legal fees and they're struggling. And no one is giving her anything. Good. Did she ask Mom and Dad? I asked, already knowing the answer. Of course, Erin said. Mom cried and said they can't keep draining their savings. Dad finally said no. That surprised me. My father, the peacemaker, the conflict avoider, the man who tried to convince me to accept Daniel and Melissa's feelings finally said no. Maybe reality had smacked him hard enough, even he couldn't look away. Still, Melissa wasn't done. An hour later, she texted me from an unknown number. I know we've had our differences, but we're going through a lot right now. Can we please talk? I need help. I deleted the message. No reply. Not even a single dot of acknowledgement. But the universe wasn't quite finished with Daniel and Melissa. The next day, Erin called again, this time almost breathless. He lost his job, she said. I blinked. Daniel. Yeah. The gym fired him. Too much drama, too many absences. And apparently he was bragging to coworkers about taking your car before you got it back. Someone reported him. I said nothing for a moment. Then, good. Because Daniel's entire life had been built on two things. Entitlement and the assumption that someone, me, my family, even Melissa, would always rescue him. Now that those safety nets were fraying, his reality was catching up fast. And Melissa Aaron said the two of them had argued nonstop since the arrest. Screaming matches loud enough, neighbors commented in the family group chat. Melissa trying to force Daniel to apply for real jobs. Daniel insisting he just needed time and people were overreacting. It was beautiful in a dark, poetic way, the unraveling of two people who thought consequences were optional. That night, I sat in my car outside my home engine off, watching the sky turn from gold to deep blue. For the first time in weeks, I felt a sense of calm washing over me. Not happiness, not vindictiveness, just closure and progress. Daniel and Melissa had started a fire they thought I wouldn't survive, but they were the ones burning. And something told me the flames were only getting started. If there was one thing I believed, after everything that had happened, it was this: Daniel and Melissa had run out of ways to surprise me. But I was wrong. 2 weeks after Daniel's arrest, I was driving home from work when my phone rang. It was an unfamiliar number, but something in me knew it wasn't spam. When I answered, my attorney's voice came through, measured, calm, professional. Ruth, he said, I need you to take a breath before I tell you this. Which is never what you want to hear from a lawyer. Okay, I said cautiously. Daniel's lawyer reached out, he continued. They're filing for alimony. Alimony. From me. I actually pulled my car over because I was afraid I'd crash from sheer disbelief. Are you serious? I whispered, gripping the steering wheel. I wish I wasn't, he said. They're claiming you were the primary financial provider, that Daniel depended on your support, and that you abruptly removed his stability. My laugh was sharp, almost feral. He removed his own stability the moment he stuck his tongue down Melissa's throat. I agree, my attorney said dryly. But legally, he's allowed to attempt a claim. We need to prepare. Prepare. That meant gathering evidence, receipts, messages, anything showing the truth, which thankfully I had plenty of. Daniel wasn't expecting a fight. He was expecting the same Ruth he always knew, the one who avoided conflict, who forgave easily, who softened even when she shouldn't have. But that Ruth had died in a dark restaurant hallway. The new Ruth was done being anyone's safety net. The courthouse smelled like old paper and colder truth. I walked in wearing a clean white blouse and black slacks, calm, composed, unshakable. Not because I wasn't nervous, but because I refused to let Daniel see me sweat. Erin came with me for support. She squeezed my hand before I entered the courtroom. "End him," she whispered, politely. I smiled. "I'm planning on it." Inside, Daniel sat at the far end of the room next to his attorney. He looked smaller than I remembered, unshaven, exhausted, hiding behind a suit that didn't fit him well. Melissa sat in the back, arms crossed, eyes darting around nervously. He didn't look at me. Good. I didn't look at him either. When the judge entered, everything shifted into motion. Daniel's attorney stood first. She painted a picture of a man devastated, financially abandoned, emotionally displaced. She claimed I had controlled the finances, that Daniel had sacrificed career opportunities for our relationship. She used words like balance and fairness, as if Daniel had ever contributed anything resembling either. Then they played their trump card. They argued that Daniel sought alimony so he could rebuild his life independently, not to burden me. It was almost impressive if I ignored how delusional it was. When it was my turn, I kept my promise to myself. No theatrics, no tears, no shouting. Just truth. Calm, sharp, undeniable. I explained that I had never controlled Daniel's finances. In fact, I had supported him because I believed in supporting your partner. I explained that Daniel betrayed me with Melissa. I explained I had evidence. Then I provided it. The judge reviewed everything silently. The messages I saved, the timestamps, the photos people had sent me from the restaurant, screenshots of Daniel and Melissa's posts, even statements from witnesses who saw Daniel disappear that night. I showed receipts proving I paid for the car, the watch, the dates, the bills. Everything. Daniel didn't look up once. His attorney tried to object at one point, but the judge cut her off with a raised hand. When he finally finished reviewing the stack of papers in front of him, he removed his glasses and leaned forward. "Mr. Rivers," the judge said, "there is a difference between financial dependence and financial exploitation." Daniel's shoulders tensed. The judge continued, "And there is a difference between being left behind and being left because of one's own actions." He turned one page slowly, deliberately. "You have demonstrated irresponsibility, infidelity, and a pattern of relying on Ms. Canales' support without reciprocation." Melissa sank lower in her seat. "Therefore, the judge concluded your request for alimony is denied, permanently." He struck the gavel. Just like that. The sound echoed through the courtroom like thunder, clean, final, merciful. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I simply breathed a full, deep breath I hadn't taken in months. From the corner of my eye, Melissa stood abruptly and walked out, her heels clicking hard against the floor. Daniel didn't follow her. He didn't look at anyone. His attorney gathered her papers with visible frustration. She'd clearly known walking in that this was a long shot. When I stood to leave, Daniel finally looked up. His eyes were red, swollen, tired. "Ruth," he whispered. But I didn't stop, didn't pause, didn't grant him even a single second of attention. The door closed behind me, sealing the chapter shut. Outside, the sun was warm, the air crisp. Erin rushed to me, grabbing my hands. "You did it," she said breathlessly. "You won." "I didn't win," I said. "I reclaimed what was mine." "Same thing," she grinned. I let myself smile just a little. The weight that had been sitting on my chest for so long, the heaviness that had followed me from the closet door to the courtroom benches, finally lifted. But the universe still had one more twist to throw. Later that evening, I got a text from an unknown number. I almost didn't check it, but curiosity got the better of me. It was from Melissa. "You can celebrate now. Daniel and I are done. I hope you're happy." I stared at the screen for a long moment, then typed nothing. I deleted the message. Not because I didn't care, but because I cared too much once. And I would never give her that access again. Daniel had lost the case. Melissa had lost Daniel. My parents were losing their influence over me. And I was finally winning myself back. In the days following the alimony hearing, something strange happened. Silence. Not the dangerous kind, the kind I'd been drowning in for months, heavy and suffocating. This was a new silence. Clean, light, empty in a good way, like a room finally emptied of junk. Daniel didn't call. Melissa didn't text again. My parents stayed quiet, which was both a relief and a reminder of everything wrong between us. Even Erin, normally my lifeline, didn't bombard me. She simply checked in once a day with a thumbs up emoji or a simple "you okay?" And strangely, I was. I didn't expect that. But life has a way of steadying itself once you stop fighting storms that were never yours to manage. For the first time in months, I woke up without a knot in my stomach. I got ready for work without glancing at my phone a dozen times. I drove without feeling like every song on the radio was mocking me. I had my life back. And the universe, in an almost theatrical way, decided to underline that with one final set of updates. It was a Thursday afternoon when Erin called and said, "Ruth, you need to hear this in person." Her tone was excited, not worried, so I wasn't bracing for another disaster. I drove over to her apartment, and she met me at the door with the kind of grin she usually reserved for winning lottery tickets. "Come inside," she said. "You're going to love this." I followed her into the living room, where she practically shoved her phone into my hands. "Read it," she said. It was a message from our cousin Natalie, the one who lived near Melissa. I clicked it open. "Girl, you won't believe this. Daniel and Melissa broke up. Big fight. Cops were called to their apartment last night. No arrests, just domestic dispute and yelling. Neighbors complained." I blinked. "Keep reading," Erin said, bouncing on her toes. "Word is Melissa kicked him out. He hasn't worked in weeks. She said she's done being the only adult in the relationship. He's staying with some friend on a couch. And wait for it. Melissa asked your parents if she could stay with them for a fresh start. They said no." I stared at the last part for a long moment. My parents said no. The same parents who defended Melissa. The same parents who bailed Daniel out. The same parents who told me to be reasonable while I was watching my relationship crumble. "They actually said no?" I asked. Erin nodded firmly. Dad told her he didn't want more chaos in the house. Mom said she needed to stand on her own 2 feet. I snorted. "Now they care about boundaries." "I know," Erin said. "It's absurd, but honestly, you need this win." Win. I didn't think of it that way. Not anymore. Because what Melissa and Daniel were going through wasn't my victory. It was their reality finally catching up to them. Still, knowing I wasn't crazy. Knowing I wasn't the problem. Knowing my parents were finally waking up. It settled something deep inside me. Erin sat beside me on the couch. "Want to know the best part?" I laughed. "There's more." "Oh, plenty," she said gleefully. "Daniel asked Mom and Dad if he could come back home too." I choked. "No." "Yes," she said. "And Dad told him no as well. He said Daniel needed to get a job and stop relying on other people." That part stunned me more than anything. My father, the eternal mediator, had finally drawn a line. It was surreal. Maybe it took a courtroom public embarrassment and a shoplifting charge to shake him awake, but he was awake. For once, I didn't feel overshadowed by my parents' choices. I felt validated. Erin nudged me. "You did everything right, you know." I considered that. Did I, or did I just stop doing things wrong? Sometimes self-respect is less about heroics and more about refusing to shrink for people who don't deserve you. A few days later, something unexpected arrived in my inbox. A long email from Melissa. I almost deleted it without opening it, but something made me pause. Not curiosity closure. The message started with, "Ruth, I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, but I need to say this." I didn't read past the first line. Not because I didn't want to, because I didn't need to. Whatever apology she was offering, too late. Whatever justification she was spinning, irrelevant. Whatever guilt she was trying to offload, not mine. I closed the email and archived it, sending it to the digital graveyard with all the other noises from people who no longer had a place in my life. Then, because it felt symbolic, I opened a browser window and looked up new cars. The sedan I repossessed from Daniel had been sitting in my driveway for weeks, a reminder of everything I'd been dragged through. I'd already decided I didn't want it anymore, not because it wasn't nice, but because it carried too much history. So I sold it. The dealership gave me a respectable trade-in, and I used the watch money plus my own savings to buy something I had wanted for years but always put off. A brand new black SUV, sturdy, beautiful, mine. When I drove it out of the dealership lot, the world felt open again. Maybe that sounds dramatic, but after months of being trapped in betrayal and chaos, driving something new felt like breathing fresh air for the first time. Like the beginning of a chapter, I finally got to write alone. The night I finalized the divorce paperwork, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea and soft music playing. No fanfare, no celebration, just peace. And peace was enough. I thought about everything I'd lost: my boyfriend, my cousin, my parents' trust. Then I realized something. I didn't lose myself. In fact, for the first time in years, I felt like I'd actually found myself. I didn't need Daniel and Melissa's collapse to feel whole. I didn't need validation from my parents. I didn't need revenge, not anymore. All I needed was this moment. Quiet, uncomplicated, mine. My phone buzzed, a message from Erin. "Proud of you. Let's celebrate this weekend. My treat." I smiled, feeling warmth spread through me. For all the people who fell away, the ones who stayed meant the world. As I looked around my quiet, peaceful home, I realized something else. Victory doesn't always look like someone falling. Sometimes it looks like you rising. And I was rising finally, fully, fiercely.